In this video, I'll be talking a little bit about my most recent Scratch build, which is loosely based off of the PZL M15 Belphegor, a Cold War era jet-powered crop duster. I wanted a plane that could do some nice and slow flights while also having a non-traditional configuration to look cool. And of course, I used one of my ducted fan units because they look and sound awesome. This plane draws a lot of attention at the park, everything from fellow hobbyists to the general public. So here we go with a quick overview, and then I'll show off what this plane is capable of later in the video. Also, at the very end, I'll show off a previous iteration of this airplane that I built 3 years ago in 2021. That one was more aerodynamically efficient, but its landing gear wasn't very robust. I scrapped this old plane about 2 years ago when I moved, but it uses the same fundamental electronics and layout as the most recent one I built in 2024. Enjoy! So here's a little overview of this plane. It's roughly modeled after the PZL M15 Belphegor, which was a single turbojet powered crop duster built by the Polish, and I'll put a picture here. And so the layout of this plane, therefore, is pretty unique with the single engine in the middle of the two biplane wings. I'm using a 64mm EDF on 4S. The two wings are constructed in my usual method of Gorilla Glue and wrapping the top layer of foam up to get a decent looking airfoil structure. It's got twin tail booms and one rudder in the rear because you don't really need two. In terms of the landing gear, we got two trailing arm suspension style landing gear in the rear, and it's squishing this little bit of TPU there for the damping effect. And then we've got a TPU printed tire with one perimeter, so it's fairly flexible. And the same setup in the front, except it's connected to a metal gear servo for front wheel steering. And this landing gear is pretty robust. I've crashed with it a couple times, hence the wrinkling there. A little bit of the power setup on this plane. I've got a 50 amp ESC and a 64mm EDF, and I've got a 2.65 amp hour 4-cell battery there in the nose. And in this area of the fuselage, I've got some tongue depressors glued to the side just to relieve some of the stresses that are going into that area, since a lot of the weight is contained in the nose and it's just kind of hung over that bit with a little bit of foam board. So there's a couple cases like this where I just need to strengthen the plane that doesn't look super nice, but this like little truss structure is another example of that, to prevent the wing from like wobbling side to side, which I was getting a lot of. And I've got little 3D printed nose caps. It gives probably next to nothing in terms of the aero performance, but they're there. And the twin rudders, or the twin vertical stabilizers, there's only one rudder. Those are barely enough to keep it going straight. I get a lot of wobbling in the yaw axis, but it's not that big of a deal.